Pentecost greetings to you. All over the world the Spirit is moving. How many times have we sung this well-known hymn, especially around the time of Pentecost? Countless times. But in these present times, I'm beginning to have questions about this Spirit, who, we are told, is making all things new. How are we to understand the Spirit in the context of 2 years of COVID, of the ongoing war in Ukraine, or the recent primary school shooting in Texas, in which 19 people, 17 of them children, were killed? How are we to understand the Spirit moving over the world in the context of growing hunger, growing poverty, and inequality? Questions like these do not sit easily with me, because I come from a generation where we were encouraged, if not told, to not question our faith. But I've come to see that it is important that we allow these questions to surface. What is happening in the world, and where is God in it all, are important questions, and they should be on the lips of all of us. And indeed, they are questions that can be put directly to God. I came across an article reflecting on the dreadful shooting at the primary school in Texas. It was a reflection put together by a Baptist minister. He offered 3 practical insights to help us grapple with our questions about where is God in the midst of so much suffering. The first insight is this: although it is understandable and normal to want to make sense of suffering, rightly asking the question, why, it's also good at such moments to turn to God and ask Him to help us understand what has happened, and sharing with God our frustrations, our doubts, our anger and reservations. The second insight is this: when you do turn to God, don't be too religious with your prayers. Just be yourself. God is big enough to handle you and your laments and your complaints and your questions. Indeed, the Bible is full of moments where people address God directly. Here is just one example. How long, Lord, must I call for help and you don't listen? How freeing it is to be able to say to God what is in your mind and in your heart without applying filters. The Christian life must include the freedom to pour out our emotions and our feelings to God. Pentecost celebrates and reminds us that we are, after all, God's adopted children. And because of this, we can and should turn to Him in good times and in bad times. The last practical insight from our Baptist friend is this: in the face of suffering, we must learn to practice the ministry of presence, as well as doing the work of grief. When we see people suffering, we want, of course, to help. We want to relieve their suffering. Sometimes we cannot actually do that. We cannot fix it for them. But we can be present to their suffering, trying to enter into their experience, crying with those who cry, just as Jesus wept over Jerusalem. As I see it, Pentecost is the great enabling of the church, of the followers of Jesus, of you and me, to carry out and carry on the mission of Jesus. In a world that is forever wounded and hurting, we, equally wounded and hurting, are the people chosen and gifted by the Spirit to do what we can to help and heal others.